Thanks for staying with us. So there was a report about the agony of many aging parents of Japa Nigerians and what they're faced with, especially at the absence of their loved ones. Despite the joy that comes with having children abroad, enjoying better academic and economic lives, experts say that aged parents left behind often face the dire aftermath of their children's long absence. We've seen various reports of parents saying that they're unable to travel to see their loved ones. Some can, others aren't able to. So they're left to deal with helps, they're left to deal with family members they're not very familiar with. They're left to have structures on their own. Even children are even buying groceries for their family all the way from Canada, just to make sure that things are okay. But it's never like when your daughter comes home with bags, bringing things for you. So lots of parents have been lamenting on the absence of their loved ones. What are your thoughts on this? How do we bridge that gap that is widening every single day? You can call us on 081-0764-1679, 090-241-63440. You can also tweet to us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag YourViewTVC so we can read your tweets. So lots of Japa parents, are lamenting. Especially those who can't afford to be traveling. Others, the few younger ones they've been going abroad back and forth. But there's some really old ones that everything they had, they sold to support their child to leave. And now, as excited they are for their children, they also feel some sort of, not a bit of regret, I would say, that, okay, they're alone. So what are your thoughts on this, Mariam, want to start?
Yes, so this is a reality. And that's why, when we talk about this Japa, sometimes it's not about, oh, we don't want Nigerians to travel. It's because we're also asking if people understand the cost. It comes at a great cost. We've talked about how it affects families. We've talked about how it affects marriages. One thing I know is how it affects the parents that you leave behind, especially older parents. And, as you said, Morayo, sometimes it's not the story of we have so much money, we can go back and forth. Sometimes, for many Nigerians, you haven't been back in Nigeria for 30 years, 25 years. That's how long they've been away from their families and their loved ones. Not because they don't want to come back, but because it costs so much to do so. Yes, they have Japa, they're living there, and they're maybe comfortably, enough to just live comfortably where they are, but not extra to come back and forth. And as you know, with our own currency, wahala, the exchange rate and things like that, all these things, affect people. And then we have older, aging parents in Nigeria. And I happen to have quite, a couple that I know. And I see the reality of it, where you're surrounded by workers, And, sometimes when you go to visit them, you would see how a worker responds to them. The frustration, because to be an older person too is not easy. They like to talk and talk and talk about the same thing over and over again. You're surrounded by workers who are maybe much younger, who also do not have the training, because in Nigeria we don't do that. We don't surround ourselves with nurses, properly trained nurses. We just look for either relatives or someone who can help, or just any help. Who get frustrated, I'm even talking of the good ones, who get frustrated because mama keeps calling over and over again to do the same thing. And it's just mama's way of trying to get someone to sit with her and speak to her. But, you don't gel, you don't know her, you've never really had a relationship with her. You're just here to do your work and get paid at the end of the month. So you don't even try, the workers don't try to have any relationship or connection with them. And these older people are sitting in front of the TV from morning till night and back to their rooms. There's nothing that they're doing. Other people who have their families around, you can go and visit this child today, visit the other one tomorrow, go for a naming ceremony, they'll carry you like this to church, you see them now. But when you don't have your family around, they don't do that. If you have good help, they may, but sometimes you see the frustration and grudge on their faces. So this is a reality, and it's a cost that people have to put into consideration when making the decisions to travel.
When you were talking, I was remembering something that somebody was doing a naming ceremony, and back then, it was like, it was a thing of pride that, these pictures, we're doing engagement. You put the pictures of the children together, because many of them, when they travel with visiting visas. So they can't even come back yet. Yes. They are stuck. It's not like those that go to Canada that they can actually find a way after a few years. But those that go with visiting visas, they go and they can't go. So you're getting married and they're doing engagement with photographs. Back then, it was like, you know, it was a thing of, okay, they're abroad. But these days, I went to one recently where both kids couldn't come back and they were doing the engagement. You could see that it wasn't enough. The parents were not really happy that they're not home. You know, so let me come to Yamaka. Your thoughts on this?
So the reality, and unfortunately, the economy is hard, and people are leaving for greener pastures.
Yeah.
Because they feel that they need to also better themselves, make that money to take care of the aging parents. Because if they don't have the funds, then how do they provide? How do they take care? How do they provide for you in every way possible? But I think Nigerian. This is 2024. I think we need to come up with better and new strategies on how to deal with these situations. And you know, when people are getting old, or when people are old, right, they start losing friends.
Yes.
Okay? They're not able to travel as much to visit their friends. Most times, I might be living in Lagos. My friend, my very close friend, might be in Abuja. Another one might be in Asaba, okay? So how do we bridge this gap to enable aging parents still communicate, still have a life? Because it's only in Nigeria that people, after a certain age, it just seems like your life zeroes out. It just is done. So I think maybe like the way they open up schools now, I think people should, this is a new business idea, people should start opening up old people's homes where you don't need to leave your parents there permanently.
Yeah.
So your parents have the liberty to check in and check out like a hotel, okay? So maybe if you're traveling, or maybe during Easter time or during celebratory periods where you as a child, you're not going to be around, you can check your parents into the home where they can meet and celebrate with other aged people. They can play games, they can go on walks, they can plan trips. You know, it mustn't be something expensive, so they can have different categories depending on what you can afford, okay? So I think we need to start schemes like this, because that's the only way forward.
I know there's one in Lagos. I know there was a time, there was one where, I'm not sure it's Lagos, somewhere else, but you register. There was
one
a
in
hyper.
Japa
Not that one. That one is a, when parents have to put this is like a higher level of where you can actually clock in. It's like a hospital, like a hotel.
Yes.
Not a hospital, a hotel where you go, you hang out, and then there's one, but I know, but I just don't know.
Meet people, exchange ideas, your life experience.
You play games, you play stuff, fashion, just dress up, maybe
about your life,
stuff like that.
Share photos of your grandchildren.
So not just like a hostel where you just drop old people.
Yes, but where they go in there.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, it is.
But let me come to you, Nima. Your thoughts on this?
The loneliness for aging parents differ with how they're aging. So some people age gracefully. Like Waike is not even aging, she's growing younger. Whereas some people in her age bracket are dealing with degenerative illnesses, their bones are weaker, some are arthritis, different ailments. And so depending on how they were in their youth and how they are now, that's how bad the loneliness might be. So and it's even worse for people who have a child or two, who's, you know, for those who have more children, you might end up with one at least. But if you have just one child who's not as committed as you'll be wishing at that point if you had many. So I have seen different. I relate more with older people. And I love the ones who can still come out and say, mommy, go for and do a few exercises. They will see me and share, you know, I've not seen this as my child though, but they see me. And so they will come and say, you two, you have been too busy. I've not seen you. But those who can't go out, when you see them inside, they will be sometimes so pained. It's so painful to see how they're dealing with it. And no amount of money the child sends can equate it at that time.
Yeah.
So they need the companionship. My mom particularly would just sit and she'll be on the phone on all her kids. And sometimes she says, Nima, I'll call you, and you say you'll call back. I said, Mommy, you were calling me, I was talking to a client. And the client did not leave. And when they leave, I had to quickly go and pick my child. Nima, I have changed. You know, it gives me guilt because I know my mom just wants to see us. So sometimes we'll gather ourselves, everybody plus what you born, carry ourselves with a crowd that we used to go and show up. So she'll count her grandchildren, bring out money she doesn't have, and share it to all of them, and then feels good. It gives her something to, you know, package. So we'd plan it at least once in 2 months to show up like that, wherever she is. Bring your child, bring your children, you know, and gather around her. So she will now be able to have some stories that the other day she will keep repeating that story to the next visit. So I imagine how, if I had to be in a long distance where my kids can't even come, how would it have been? My grandma is still alive, She has even locked herself into that place of once in a while phone call. Oh, I saw your message. I saw your messenger, and that's it. You know, if you call and you're able to talk to her, you see how she'll be elated. I can't imagine, you know, the way we structure old people's home here and leave them to someone and say someone is just caring for them and not being touched.
You know, interesting, my mom traveled sometime many years ago, and she was in my brother's house, and his mother-in-law also, both of them were there. So the both of them checked themselves into this old people's home. I think it was in Boston or somewhere, I'm not sure. And they were there for the weekend. My mother came home with so many stories that they danced, they did bingo, they also made games, and she learned so many things. So it's a good way to help their psyche. But my question is, how do we help those who have jackpot to help? Because I know there's FaceTime, there's for all of them, there's a video calls that you can do. They can see their grandchildren. So should parents, aged parents, accept today's reality? That you will not be there. I mean, so this one that they are moping around and they're saying they're not there, it's not like the same thing. You simply have to accept the virtual relationship. That should be enough going forward.
No, they accept it. For most of them, they accept it. After all, you know, some of them were part of, you know, contributing to have their children live there. And they're happy to hear he has a job, he is married, the children are there, they see the pictures, they see the videos, they're happy. Yeah. But also does not take away their own reality of being lonely, wishing you were here. Do you know I fell in the bathroom today before anyone could come and pick me up? It was how many hours? Do you understand? And then what also happens when you say that the older people that are, you know, that are able to move around, what happens is that they now form really close relationships with those people around them. So if they have people like Nima, you almost become like their child to them. Because they see you every day, they depend on you. So you now find situations, which has happened, where someone passes and then you realize that Mama had actually handed over her chest of jewelry to the neighbor. You now come and be vexing. But towards the end of her life, that was her child. That's the person that she knew and she loved. So I love the idea also of having them go somewhere and come back. You know what is even more lonely for them? You see, Christmas is just those holiday periods. You cannot come. You just be doing video with them, but they are sitting down there with their helps who have to also go for their own Christmas or Easter
They end up doing it alone.
And they end up doing it alone. So if there was a place that they could go for that Easter, Christmas, just
when are we going to have the tough talk of the sacrifice, the compromise to come back? Because YK accused
coming back.
No, let me finish.
Okay.
It was one time my dad was still alive then, and I was like, I've not seen my parents in this whole month. He said that you live in Lagos, you live nearby. What if you had to leave your job somewhere outside the country to come back and make sure you're with them? You know, what if you had to? I was like, if he gets to that, I might have to, you know. And recently when I went back home, I used to make it every weekend, no matter how the schedule is crazy. That weekend I want to sleep, that sleep has gone. I'll show up, just sit with my mom, even if it's for 4 hours before I leave. So how are you doing? So she wants to gist, and then I heard the gist the weekend before. You hear it again. And then I sleep off. She said, I was talking to you, slept off. I said, Mommy, can I conclude that story for you? She said, you're so mischievous.
And that's all they want.
That's just what they need. And you know, I used to even not drive. So when I'm going like that, I would walk so that I can pass through the markets and buy what I think she would need. And she'll go, you bought it last week. I say, okay, I just like to buy it again. You know, she said, you are so wasteful with your money. I said, don't worry. You know, and take my kids on the road trip home and back. It was warming for me. I'm not wondering, if you're sitting abroad and you have a parent who you see how sad, you see it at the end of it. They're not telling you because most times they don't want to tell you.
Yeah, but you know.
Can anyone consider the decision of coming home for the sake of that parent?
They do. Do you know they are also
as in moving back home?
Moving back home. That's
they consider. They consider it. But remember, we're also talking of.
Economic.
You know, I just don't want to talk about this. I know someone. It's a tough decision. I know someone that came home and spent a long time. Wife was calling, what is happening? So we're not talking of very rich people that can afford to be going back and forth. So that you have come here now and you're staying at home for a long. You're not earning anything. You have reduced the amount of money that they're earning at home.
You have bills
to pay. You have bills to pay. Children are going to school. You don't come home to stay for this long. But you are now here with your mom and you're thinking, I can't leave her like this. You know, it's always a tough decision. But and then if I decide to come home to do what? I'm in my 50s. What do I do? Where do I start? Which job will I get? My children and wife that I use, maybe an American wife that they used to living abroad. How do I bring them here? And then, you know, it's really tough on both sides. So it's not as if you have children on the other side thinking, I don't care what's happening. You know, they too are in pain that they are unable to give their parents all their
Yeah, like for my mom, all my mom wants to do is cook for me because they feel that I don't eat well enough or that I'm not a foodie. Most of you might disagree. But, yeah, but all my mom wants to do is cook for me. And then I keep saying, you don't have to cook for me because I don't even want to eat. I don't want to eat. You understand? But that's just what she wants to do. And then another thing, I think it's also our responsibility as kids to teach to carry our parents along in terms of technology, technology, right? Appliances. So, like me, I'm not a very techie person, but my mom is very tech. My mom still uses her laptop, she sends her emails. When it comes to my investments, financial investments, my mom that sends me emails, this stock is closing at this and that, right? She knows how to do WhatsApp calls and stuff, so she links. But my dad is not so good at that. He still struggles with he's not techie.
Yeah.
And then we have parents that they are doing a video call with you. You're seeing they're not seeing the face, they're seeing their head and stuff, right? So it's kind of tough.
It is.
So I just think that also because everybody is busy, right? And life happens, and most people have their own children. They have things they are dealing with in their own home. So just like you set reminders for everything, like I set reminder for everything, for almost every single thing in my life. I write down, I set reminder. I'm that intentional. So even to call my parents, I set reminders if there's something. If not,
so Amaka, is one thing in building relationship with your parents, which technology can help us, checking up on them. However, the issue many are having is that when they now get to that point of illness, where they need extra attention, they don't have anybody, they need somebody who is there, who's my child. So it's not as if those abroad have abandoned them. They are caring for them, paying for the help. But is that connection?
They are in a position they want to be privately cared for.
Yeah.
There's so many things that, be exposed, people will just be touching.
Yes.
They feel so exposed. My mom still goes to therapy with hijab. Mom is physiotherapy. They want to do hand and leg. Say, no, to wear her full gown. We had to force her buy her caps.
When my mother fell ill, after the checkup, the moment that the doctor said, okay, this is the situation, we're dealing with cancer, she says, I'm going to your house. She didn't want to stay in that house. She didn't want people coming to her house. And what happened to Morayo? She just carried myself to my house. She would rather just stay in my house. She had no business anywhere else. And you could tell that she was grateful when I was here.
Yes.
Yeah. So we now have to do it. She was grateful that
all your brothers outside.
Yes, all my brothers were living abroad.
Them private, that thing is so
can be very invasive.
When you now have to bath your own parents.
Yes.
And then you're abroad. And then you pay for someone to do that.
Yeah.
Even as their child, you can see a certain form of, they are not quite happy. My sister did that for my grandma. After a while, sometimes she felt ill, she had to clean her, and they had lots of jokes. And because it's her granddaughter, they could joke. My friend just did it with her mom who passed, and it was quite private, quite invasive. Imagine for someone else.
Imagine.
That's when we hear that it's not that after a brief illness, because they now figure out, how am I going to carry, who's going to do this? And then they are constantly sad. They'll give them their medication, they won't take it, because they are thinking there's no need for me to stay.
My father-in-law
no one
did that. He had a surgery, and before he went in for that surgery, they had to get a specimen, and he just would not allow anybody to touch him. My husband had to take time off work, and so when he went into stroke and went into coma the next time, my husband stayed off work for as long as he lived and took care of him personally, as in nobody else was allowed to touch, clean near him or anything, because he understood the kind of man he had. He knew that he would go straight to his dignity and he would enter depression that somebody else would touch him. RMD, the actor, shared something once on his post, and he was thankful to his sisters, that his parents, when they were aging, that, all of you cannot be available, that he was busy. But sending money is not caring for people. The person who is on ground.
That's the person
that is doing the work. The person who knows hospital appointments. I am so inept at these things. My elder sister knows all the hospital appointments. In fact, she keeps the card. Tuesdays, I'll say, should I send Uber? She's like, okay. And in my mind, I'm taking care of my mother. The person who knows the bottle of pills is empty. It's the person doing the work. And that's the huge work itself. I can only imagine if there was nobody. Because I have siblings. If I was an only child, I might have to leave whatever I'm doing.
So when my father was very ill, and I was, you know, there caring for him, feeding him, bathing and cleaning for him, and I'll be grumbling. And she said, listen, just keep doing it. Keep doing it, he's blessing you. And when he now finally passed on, and everybody started coming, siblings, they were coming and rolling on the floor, I felt like, I mean, I wasn't crying. I was just like, she said, don't worry, the one that you've done, you've already done it. Nobody can take it from you. Just relax.
Yeah.
Don't all the drama, watch the drama, enjoy the drama. But don't, because I was wondering, why are they dramatizing? I didn't see you, I didn't see anybody, all the aunties, all there, nobody was there. I mean, yes, some were there financially, they stopped supporting money, but they were just rolling on the floor. So they let them roll. Enjoy the theatrics. You, the most important one, you have done, which is care for him. And that one, nobody can take that from you for life. So, and those who have traveled, it's not as if, I don't want them to feel bad, but just that somebody is always that one person should be home to care for your family.
You know, this thing that you talked about, we can't wave it aside. What works in the mind of the person who was there? So I had this relative who was very ill. I'll take time off work, do the runs, everything. When he passed, everybody was wondering why I wasn't crying. I was just looking like this. They thought, why are you not sad? And then I saw one relative just showed up, cried. Oh, it was my life. It was my everything. But that's why you come in, and you cannot even empathize with her. I was like, who will not empathize with me? What the work I did? Nobody even approached the issue. I was like, they say you can't see she's crying, she's falling over. Like, if you fall finish, she stands straight. She move on because she moved on. Because when you are not even too far, and you hear your relative is ill, the thought at the back of your mind should be, it could be death. That's the first thing that should come to your mind. I'm grateful for the last moments of my dad. So COVID had happened, we had all been locked up in the house. But this man had been talking since February that year that I'm not feeling fine. And this is a strong person. I'm not feeling fine. I kept saying, I'll come. I'll visit hurriedly, I'll go. I'll visit hurriedly, I'll go. Then after COVID, you are okay. It's past your... I said, I'm still busy. And then there's lockdown. We cannot move. I thank God that I had that dream. And I had to go home. And that 4 or 5 days I spent, imagine the guilt. It would have finished me.
We have a caller. Good morning, you're live.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you for this topic. This topic is actually a very good topic. Yes, my name is Morayo. Thank you. So we have this thing that you're talking about is the same thing that just happened with me. It's going to be 1 year that my mom passed. I'm the only one in Nigeria. I'm not the only one in Nigeria, but I am and my brother. My brother is not around because, you know, of course, he's a man. He couldn't even be with her. Throughout last year, you know, she was very sick. She died in my arms, actually. And everybody was calling my twin sister, my elder sister, everyone from U.S., you know. They could not be around because of this same Japa issue. But at the end of the day, even during the burial, everybody thought I was the only one that the woman gave birth to. Everybody, Taiwo here, Taiwo there, Taiwo this, Taiwo that, and all that. But, you know, I just thank God that I was able to spend those last moments with her. Even while she was passing, we were on video call, you know, with my siblings, seeing how she was passing on in my arms. So really, I feel people should just really think about this thing before they go ahead to this. It's not that I can't travel. It's not that I don't want to. But then, who would have taken care of that woman if I wasn't there? So they should really think about it. That's my contribution. Good morning. Thank you.
My family, so in my own family, so my brothers live abroad, but I'm here. So there should be at least one person who can stay and care, because as they're enjoying the relationship, there will be a time they will need your personal care, personal touch. Who's going to stand by your parents?
You know, there's talk actually that's been going on about modern times and how we're not deliberate about building relationships with our parents or allowing our children build relationships with their grandparents. In the olden days, it was much easier. We all grew up in the same house or the same community down the road. But they say in modern times, that relationship, most children don't really have a relationship with their grandparents. Or, you are with your parents until you go off to boarding school, then you go off to boarding school, then you travel for university, you travel for university, then you leave abroad. So really the times that you've spent with your parents is maybe the first 11 or first 12 years. And then your new life takes over. especially with men, they say you have this affinity more to your wife, to your children. Yes. So that thought of your parents may be needing you, you don't have it because they've always done things for you. Yeah. So you don't remember that there's a time that they would need you. And it does not come naturally to you that I have to go and take care of them. So we need to start working on that relationship with our children and their grandparents, as us as well. You know, we're at a point in our lives where we're busy. You're getting up, you're taking children to school, you're going for work, things like that. And we allow that to take, you know, take up our time. So I like the way Amaka was saying that she even puts like alarms. But if you have my mom is my alarm. If you don't call, she'll keep calling you. Yes, but it's important. And then important to also put it in our children so that they will learn for when they become older to remember to have that relationship with you and understand that they will need to care for you.
Go ahead, Amaka.
Yes, it's, you know, like you said, it's super important to do that. But then we also need to, our parents, and then we as children, we need to be intentional about liking our parents, liking our partners, okay? Because it also makes your life easier.
Abi?
Yeah, because if your parents don't like your partner, then they won't feel comfortable bringing that person to live with them in the home because
that's another matter.
Because men don't like that kind of friction. But then if you're a man, you have to be intentional about making sure that your wife or your mother likes your partner. It makes your life easier. So you know that someone, because women have the caring tendency. So you find out that if you have a wife that likes your mother, she's going to take particular interest in what making sure your mother is okay. Make sure that your mom can come stay. Is your mom okay? Let me do this for your mom.
Let me take this call. I'll come to you in a second. Let me take this call. Lara, thanks for calling. You're live.
Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Good morning.
First time caller.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah. So I think we need to be intentional about taking care of our parents. I'm a grandmother. I have a mother. And I wonder how I will feel if I say because of greener pastures I abandoned my mom. Because I'm now a grandmother and I see the impact, the work the mother is doing for our children, for our grandchildren as well. So if I now abandon my mom or my dad because I'm going for greener pastures without being intentional about their care, once upon a time they were there for us. When we were in their womb, when we were crawling, when we were going to school, all those while I was doing school runs and all that to graduated. Now, would I now leave all that and don't think of paying back my parents because of greener pastures? So I think it's a roundtable discussion for children. If you are 4 or 5, who is going to be available? Oh, we need to go and make money, we need to go and live well. But somebody must sacrifice, or we all must sacrifice to take care of these older people. You know, when they're getting old.
Go ahead, Nima.
From my experience, what Amaka said is key. But it's also important the parents build that relationship because you should be forward-looking. Yes. The parents cannot be hostile to your partner. They are the ones who need your partner. You cannot come and say, she's Yoruba, she's Igbo. I don't like her head upside down. You just might end up with them.
Absolutely.
Okay? And if that person is not a dignified, caring, naturally respectful human being, that old age will be tougher.
Yeah.
So because you will come around to need that relationship. Also, what Miriam was talking about is live an intentional life. So my kids, when my daughter turned 9, from 9, she must go to my parents-in-law's house because they were closer to me and help them around with chores. Yeah. She didn't get it initially. When I started, my husband too didn't get it. In fact, when she was 8, all of them didn't get it. I kept saying, your grandparents are aging. Because there was an illness that shook me up from my father-in-law at the time. I was like, what if? So how would these kids know? My son didn't know my dad so much, but, you know, he filled it up with his granddad from the father's side. I used to intentionally take them there. And I saw the budding relationship they were having. So he gave him a pet name. They would say, you see, Grandpa, you're so mischievous. You took my car, you know, and I would be afraid. I would be like, let Grandpa open. There was a day he said, Grandpa, why are you looking at me like a statue? I was like, let this Grandpa just open, let me disappear because they will say I didn't raise him properly. But I saw that he smiled at the back of it, and he had the car. He actually held on to it so that my son could. And I saw that. And so I made up my mind that no matter how far it was, the kids would go. No matter how tough it was, they would go. After a while, they were going on their own. They would just hold each other's hand and go there. It was important because at the time of passing, you want to be able to know how they were, what filled their memories and be part of it.
What you're saying is extremely important. Two things you said so far. The fact that even parents must be intentional about building a relationship. You like your husband, your son's spouse, you don't like your daughter's husband. Either way, as you are growing older, it's time for you to let bygones be bygones and begin to build that relationship, because you will need that relationship as you grow. That's number one.
Let it grow.
Number two,
that's it.
Also, we need to, let me read Lalaja Modina's comment. She said that, I pray the message sinks in and people make changes where need be. Parents too should think twice on their approach and relationship, which was what she said earlier. Relationships and thought process of their growing children in terms of bonding and teaching them empathy beyond money, humanity first. Because we think once we throw money around, it's not about money, it's you being physically there. That with family, with grandchildren, that relationship you said about with grandchildren is extremely important. Children don't know their grandparents. They don't relate to their grandparents, and it's important. These are memories that they need.
It's also important your children see you care for your parents. I remember my husband would go to his parents to care for them and leave my kids. I say, no, take your children. Let them understand the circle. So when they say this prayer to you, that your child will do the same for you, it's not because they pray for you to be ill. They want your child to at least understand the importance of you in their lives as they grow older. So when they marry and fall in love and move on, you don't want your child to think, oh, my parents are in my past and all of that, I'm too busy for them. But if you take them, it builds that circle. It's important.
And like for me now, I don't know if it happened to any of you here, I'm very intentional about creating memories with my parents. I try to when I'm with my parents, I record everything. So sometimes it might look like, oh, you're on your phone or I'm being stupid, but when I'm alone or I'm back home, I watch those clips, makes me smile, because I want to have as much as possible of their memories with them. Do you understand? Yes, and then now as they're getting older too, I'm very intentional about the things that they might like, that they used to do for each other that they might not be able to do for each other. Like for Valentine's, I'll make sure I send my mom stuff. I'll make sure I send my dad stuff. Because I want them to be still, because I know who they are, growing up, and I still want them to be so involved in those sweet little things that they want to do, go to the spa and stuff. So they don't miss out on the.
Let's go on a short break. When we come back, we continue this conversation and take a few calls. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.